Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. Okay, we are just going to jump right into things today. Have you ever heard a story about someone who absolutely nobody took seriously and then, completely against the odds, they just went ahead and proved the entire world wrong? Well, today we're unpacking some truly fascinating material that shows us exactly how that happens. We're going to explore the stories of women who completely defy deep-rooted societal expectations. And look, this isn't just some abstract feel-good concept. We are looking at actual, real-world blueprints of people who grabbed the steering wheel and took their lives into their own hands. Let's get right into it.
So think about this for a second. Have you ever been told, straight up, you can't do this? Or honestly, maybe it wasn't even said out loud, but you just felt that heavy underlying assumption from the people around you. There's this very specific, incredibly frustrating moment when society, or sometimes, man, even your own family, just decides that you aren't capable of something. They tell you that you won't succeed. They brush you off. They just don't take you seriously. I think we've all felt some version of that, right? That suffocating weight of someone else's arbitrary limits being slapped onto your potential.
But what happens next in these situations is what absolutely matters the most. They prove the entire world wrong. Our source text today provides 3 distinct, incredibly powerful case studies. We're talking 3 different women, 3 totally different backgrounds, and 3 entirely different sets of challenges. But there is this one remarkable unifying thread between them. No one took them seriously, and they answered that doubt with relentless, undeniable action. And honestly, the mechanics of how they did this, it means this could be your story too.
So let's dive into case study 1, Meena's incredible story of breaking the mold.
Okay, to really grasp the gravity of Meena's story, you've got to understand her starting line. She grew up in a small town in Rajasthan, and she was literally the very first girl in her entire family to pursue an education. So just stepping foot into a classroom was already a massive rebellion. And there's a really stark contrast here. When she finished 10th grade and even mentioned the idea of going to college, her family shut it down with a very clear directive. They basically told her, look, girls only study up to a certain point. Going beyond 10th grade? Not necessary. It's time to get married. What are you even going to get out of studying more? But Meena's internal reality was entirely different. She had absolutely zero support at home. She had no role models to point to and say, hey, she did it, so can I. But what she did have was this undeniable, burning desire to learn.
So, how did she handle it? Well, she didn't argue. Instead, she took these very quiet, incredibly calculated steps. Step 1. She just started going to her school's library every single day simply because they had an internet connection. Step 2. She used that free access to completely teach herself computers, typing, and basic software. Step 3, and this is brilliant, about a year later she quietly secured a secret part-time data entry job at a local government office. Didn't breathe a word of it to anyone. And step 4, she achieved true financial independence. She had her own salary going straight into her very own private bank account. She systematically built up her skills without asking for a single ounce of permission. Of course, eventually her family found out about the job and the secret bank account. And as you might guess, they were furious. They cornered her and demanded to know, why did you do all this? And Meena's response was literally just 4 words. She looked right at them and said, because I wanted to. Now that might sound simple to us, but in her world, in her context, those words were an absolute revolution. It was a total reclamation of her own agency.
And that single defiant choice had a massive ripple effect. Today, Meena is 31 years old. She runs her very own digital literacy center, specifically for women in her city. She's out there actively teaching other women the exact same skills that absolutely no one was willing to teach her. And yes, she did eventually get married, but she did it entirely on her own terms. That financial independence she built in secret gave her the ultimate superpower, the power to ensure that her no actually carried weight and her yes had real value. She completely dictates her own life now.
All right, let's shift gears completely for case study 2, Farida's story.
So we're moving from a small town in Rajasthan straight into the hyper-competitive corporate world of Mumbai. Meet Farida. She was 29 years old, working as a mid-level executive at a marketing agency. And by all accounts, she did absolutely everything right. Her work was stellar, her numbers were great, she had a solid relationship with her boss, everything was totally on track. But then, she ran headfirst into a glaring, frustrating corporate bias. A big promotion opened up, one she clearly, objectively deserved based on her high experience and top-tier results. But guess what? The promotion went to a junior male colleague who had less experience and significantly lower results. Naturally, Farida went straight to human resources to ask what on earth happened, and their response was just stunning. HR actually told her they assumed the junior guy was quote-unquote more committed long-term. Why? Because Farida was getting married soon. Because obviously, the second you slip a wedding ring on your finger, it just instantly erases all your career ambitions, right? They made this massive, completely baseless assumption that she would eventually quit or just stop caring, and they did it with zero evidence, without even having a conversation with her. So you know what Farida did? She walked right out. No tears, no begging. Just a deep sense of frustration and a firm decision made that very same day that she would never again work for a system where someone else gets to arbitrarily dictate her future.
Which brings us to a really important number, 3. Farida quit and immediately jumped into freelance marketing. In her very first month, she landed 1 client. By month 2, she had already scaled up to 3 clients. The growth was just explosive. In fact, within just 6 months, her new freelance income had completely surpassed the salary of that promotion she was so unfairly denied.
But wait, it gets so much better. Just 1 year after walking out of that HR office, Farida founded her own boutique digital marketing consultancy. And do you know who works for her today? Her former ex-colleagues from that old toxic company. She is the boss now, and she decides her own team's promotions based purely on the actual work they do. No baseless assumptions about their personal lives, no corporate bias. She entirely eliminated the toxic system she suffered under simply by building a better one herself.
Okay, let's look at our final story. Case study 3, Sana.
For this one, we're heading over to Delhi. And Sana's story is incredible because it completely destroys the myth that it's ever too late to start over. To really get Sana, you have to look at her rock bottom. At age 28, she had just walked away from a deeply toxic 4-year relationship. She had no stable job. She had absolutely zero savings, no clear direction according to society's weird, arbitrary timeline for where you should be. She was severely behind in life. People looked at her at 28, single, unemployed, starting from scratch, and basically whispered that the ship had sailed. They thought it would be nearly impossible for her to build anything meaningful at that stage. But Sana decided she was only going to measure herself by her own ruler. And look at how incredibly fast things can change when you just put your head down and work. At 28, she grabbed a very basic entry-level job just to keep the lights on. And she spent her nights furiously taking free content writing courses on YouTube. 6 months later, those free nighttime courses landed her a first paid content writing gig. Just 1 year in, she transitioned to full-time freelancing. And by year 3, she had built a massive financial cushion and was renting a beautiful home, entirely by herself. Small, consistent, daily steps completely rebuild to reality. And let's look at where she is right now. Today, at 34 years old, Sana completely dictates her own life. She makes no apologies and she doesn't justify her choices to anyone. And you want to know the most ironic part of all this? All those people who looked at her at 28 with pity, telling her it was too late, they are the exact same people who are coming to her today asking, "Hey, how did you manage to do all this?" So, let's zoom out for a second. What did these 3 women actually have in common? We've just looked at 3 totally fascinating, very different lives across Rajasthan, Mumbai, and Delhi. Different situations, different ages, different industries, but there is a crucial uniting thread here that we absolutely have to pay attention to. First, they did not wait for the right time. Second, they didn't sit around waiting for ideal conditions or for people to finally get them. And third, and I think this is the most important one, they did not ask for permission. Meena didn't ask permission to learn. Farida didn't ask permission to walk out. Sana didn't ask permission to hit the reset button on her life. They just started. They started exactly where they were, using exactly what they had in front of them. The source material we're looking at today wraps up their success with this absolutely brilliant quote. "This wasn't extraordinary talent. This wasn't exceptional luck. This was a decision." Man, it is so easy for us to just sit back and make excuses, isn't it? To say, oh, well, their situation was different, or they had some secret advantage I don't have. But this truth right here, it strips away every single excuse. Success in these stories didn't come from a magic wand. It came from a simple, totally reproducible choice to just build a life on their own terms, whether anyone believed in them or not. And honestly, the best part of all of this is how boring and manageable that decision actually is in the moment. These huge, life-changing success stories weren't built on dramatic, giant leaps. They were built on tiny, deeply unglamorous first steps. It was Meena quietly walking into a dusty school library. It was Farida desperately pitching to get just one single freelance client. It was Sana sitting alone in her room at night watching a free YouTube course. Every single monumental change in your life is going to start with just one small thing. Which leaves us with this final, incredibly provocative question for you today. What is your one thing? Seriously, what is that one small, tiny step you can start today? It genuinely does not matter how incredibly small or insignificant it feels right now, because that tiny step is the exact foundation that stories like Meena's, Farida's, and Sana's are built on. Think about it. What is your step? And hey, if this explainer sparked something in you today, please share it with someone who needs that spark right now. Someone who is currently being told, you can't do this. Show them exactly how the world can be proven wrong. Thanks so much for hanging out with me for this explainer, and I will catch you all next time.